Hey, coin collectors, did you know that the Washington quarter, a coin you probably have in your pocket, could be worth a fortune? That's right, today we're going to explore the top 5 rare Washington quarters that could make you rich. If you have any of these in your collection, you might be sitting on a treasure worth thousands, tens of thousands, or even more than $100,000. What if I told you that your old Washington quarter from 1970 could be worth hundreds, or even thousands, of dollars? The 1970 D-era Washington quarter is a hidden gem in the world of coin collecting. Whether it's a double die, a dramatic off-center strike, or even a rare proof struck on a foreign planchet, this coin could hold incredible value. Stick around as we uncover the secrets of these rare coins and how to spot them. Money bag. History of the 1970 D Washington quarter. The Washington quarter has been a staple of U.S. currency since 1932, with the 1970 D being minted at the Denver Mint. These coins were struck in copper-nickel clad, with a copper core and a nickel outer layer, as the U.S. Mint had transitioned away from 90% silver quarters after 1964. Although the 1970 D is not inherently rare, error varieties and anomalies have made some of these coins highly sought after by collectors. Rare errors on the 1970 D Washington quarter. There are several types of errors associated with the 1970 D Washington quarter, some of which are worth significant money. Here are the most notable ones. Off-center strikes. Value, depending on the degree of the off-center strike, 5% to 50% or more, these coins can range from $100 to $500 plus. Clipped planchet. Value, these errors are typically valued at $50 to $150, depending on the size and shape of the clip. Struck on a foreign planchet. Value, these rare errors can sell for $2,000 to $10,000 or more, depending on their uniqueness. Broad struck errors. Value, these coins can fetch $100 to $300, depending on their appearance. How to identify valuable errors on the 1970 D Washington quarter. To identify a potential error coin, follow these steps. Inspect the lettering, look for any doubling in the text, particularly Liberty and In God We Trust. Check the strike, examine the edges and rims for off-center or broad-struck features. Measure the weight. Coins struck on foreign planchets will have weights different from the standard 5.67 grams. Authenticate rare errors. If you suspect you have a rare error, send your coin to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for certification. Why is the 1970 D-era Washington quarter so valuable? Rarity. Error coins from this era are relatively uncommon, making them highly desirable. Visual appeal. Errors like off-center strikes and clipped planchets are dramatic and eye-catching, adding to their collectability. Historical interest. As part of the Washington quarter series, these coins already hold historical value, which is amplified by the presence of errors. Hold on to your quarters, because you might just have a coin worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The 1971 Washington quarter dollar is often overlooked, but this coin is packed with valuable errors that could skyrocket its worth. Imagine finding a coin with a double die, or an off-center strike, that could be worth $2,000 or more. Stick around until the end to discover how to spot these rare errors and how much they could be worth in today's market. Money bag. History of the 1971 Washington quarter. The 1971 Washington quarter was minted as part of the standard U.S. coinage, and it marked the first year the U.S. Mint began using a new copper-nickel clad composition for quarters, replacing the older 90% silver quarters. The coin features the classic design. Rare errors on the 1971 Washington quarter. There are several key errors that can increase the value of a 1971 Washington quarter. Below are some of the most exciting and valuable error types. Double die errors. Value. Double die errors are one of the most popular errors among collectors. Depending on the severity of the doubling and the coin's condition, values can range from $200 to $2,000 or more. Off-center strikes. Value. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the higher the value. Typically, off-center 1971 Washington quarters can fetch $100 to $500, and the most extreme examples can go for even more. Clipped planchet. Value. Clipped planchet 1971 Washington quarters are relatively rare and can sell for $50 to $200, depending on the size of the clip and the coin's overall condition. Struck on a foreign planchet. Value. Coins struck on foreign planchets are extremely rare, and when found, they can be worth $1,000 to $10,000 or more, depending on the type of foreign planchet used. Broad struck errors. Value. Broad-struck 1971 Washington quarters can sell for $100 to $300, depending on how pronounced the error is. How to identify valuable errors on the 1971 Washington quarter. Follow these steps to identify whether you have a valuable error coin. Inspect the design for doubling. Look closely at the letters Liberty and In God We Trust on the obverse, and check Washington's portrait for any signs of doubling. Examine the edges for off-center or broad-struck errors. Check the coin's edges to see if the design appears misaligned or spread out beyond the typical boundaries. Measure the weight. Coins struck on foreign planchets will have a different weight. A standard 1971 Washington quarter should weigh about 5.67 grams. If it's lighter or heavier, it could be a struck-on foreign planchet error. Check for irregular shapes. If the coin has an irregular edge or looks clipped, it may be a clipped planchet error. Are you ready to discover a hidden treasure in your pocket change? The 1972 Washington quarter might just be the jackpot you've been waiting for. Some of these quarters feature rare errors that can fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Stick around until the end to learn how to spot these valuable error coins, and you could be holding a coin worth up to $2,000 or more. Collision money bag. History of the 1972 Washington quarter. The 1972 Washington quarter was minted as part of the regular U.S. coinage during the early 1970s. It was the year the U.S. Mint continued the practice of striking quarters featuring the famous George Washington design by John Flanagan. The coin was part of the U.S. Mint's copper-nickel clad series, with a composition of 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel. The 1972 Washington quarter is not particularly rare in terms of mintage, but error coins from this series have become highly prized due to their distinctive flaws and rarity. Rare errors on the 1972 Washington quarter. Several types of errors can turn a standard 1972 Washington quarter into a valuable collector's item. Here are the most common error types. Off-center strikes. Value. Off-center strike errors can range in value from $100 to $500 or more, depending on how far off-center the design is. Clipped planchet errors. Value. Clipped planchet 1972 quarters can be worth $50 to $200 or more, depending on the size of the clip and the overall condition of the coin. Die cracks. Value. Coins with die cracks can sell for $50 to $150, depending on the size and location of the crack. Struck on a foreign planchet. Value. This error is extremely rare and can be worth anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000, depending on the foreign planchet used. How to identify valuable errors on the 1972 Washington quarter. If you think you might have a rare 1972 Washington quarter with errors, here's how to identify them. Look for doubling. Check the lettering and date for signs of doubling, especially in the words Liberty and In God We Trust, as well as around the portrait of Washington. Examine the edge for off-center strikes. Hold the coin up to the light and examine the edge to see if the design is misaligned or shifted. Check for clipped edges. Look for any irregular or jagged edges, which could indicate a clipped planchet error. Inspect the coin for die cracks. Look closely at the design for fine cracks, especially around the lettering in Washington's profile. Weigh the coin. If the coin seems too light or too heavy, it might have been struck on a foreign planchet. A standard 1972 Washington quarter weighs about 5.67 grams. Why is the 1972 Washington quarter error so valuable? Rarity. Error coins are always rarer than their correctly struck counterparts, making them more desirable among collectors. Collectability. The Washington quarter series is one of the most popular among collectors, and errors only add to their appeal. Hold on to your quarters, coin hunters. Have you ever wondered if that 1973 Washington quarter you've got could be worth a fortune? You won't believe the insane value some of these coins can fetch, hundreds, even thousands of dollars, if they have the right error. Stick around to discover how you can spot a rare 1973 Washington quarter that could be worth up to $2,000 or more. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Collision money bag. History of the 1973 Washington quarter. The 1973 Washington quarter was part of the regular coinage minted by the United States in 1973. The design features George Washington on the obverse and an eagle in flight on the reverse, created by John Flanagan. These coins were produced in Denver with the mint mark D on the reverse, indicating they were struck at the Denver Mint. Though most 1973 D Washington quarters are not particularly rare in terms of mintage. Error coins from this year can be highly valuable, especially when collectors come across coins with unique and noticeable defects. Types of errors on the 1973 D Washington quarter. The 1973 D Washington quarter has been known to have several errors that are of particular interest to collectors. The most common error types found on this quarter include off-center strikes. Value: off-center strike 1973 D quarters can be worth $100 to $500 or more, depending on how far off-center the coin is. Clipped planchet errors. Value: a clipped planchet 1973 D Washington quarter can range in value from $50 to $300 depending on the severity of the clip and the overall condition of the coin. Die cracks. Value: coins with die cracks can still have some value, typically between $50 and $150, depending on the prominence of the cracks and the coin's overall condition. Struck on a foreign planche. Value: a 1973 D Washington quarter struck on a foreign planchet is an extremely rare find and could fetch anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 or more, depending on the foreign planchet it was struck on. How to identify valuable errors on the 1973 D Washington quarter. If you think you might have a valuable 1973 D Washington quarter with an error, here's how to check. Look for doubling. Check for doubled letters and numbers, especially around Liberty, In God We Trust, and Washington's portrait. Use a magnifying glass to inspect fine details. Examine the edge for off-center strikes. Hold the coin up and look for any part of the design that's shifted off the edge of the coin. Why is the 1973 D Washington quarter error so valuable? Rarity. Error coins are far rarer than standard coins, and collectors value these mistakes as unique and one-of-a-kind pieces. High demand. Washington quarters, especially those with noticeable errors, are among the most sought-after coins for collectors. Hold on to your quarters, collectors. You might be sitting on a hidden gem without even knowing it. The 1974 D Washington quarter dollar, a coin that may seem ordinary at first, could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars if it has the right errors. Stick around as we reveal the most valuable 1974 D errors that could make your coin collection soar in value. Fire money bag. History of the 1974 D Washington quarter. The 1974 D Washington quarter was minted at the Denver Mint, as indicated by the D Mint mark. The Washington quarter series, which began in 1932, is one of the most iconic U.S. coins. The obverse features George Washington's profile, and the reverse features an eagle in flight, designed by John Flanagan. In 1974, the U.S. Mint produced millions of these quarters, so finding one without a significant error or rare feature is not especially uncommon. However, error coins, especially those with interesting mistakes, can significantly increase the value of a 1974 D Washington quarter. Common errors on the 1974 D Washington quarter. Here are some of the most exciting and valuable error types found on the 1974 D Washington quarter. Off-center strikes. Value. Off-center strikes on a 1974 D Washington quarter can range from $50 to $500, with more dramatic off-center strikes potentially fetching higher prices, especially if they are highly visible or dramatic. Clipped planchet errors. Value. Depending on the severity of the clip, a 1974 D Washington quarter with a clipped planchet can be worth $100 to $500 or more. Die cracks. Value. A coin with a prominent die crack could be worth around $50 to $200, depending on the visibility of the crack and the overall condition of the coin. Struck on a foreign planchet. Value. A foreign planchet error on a 1974 D Washington quarter can be quite rare, and these types of coins can be worth $500 to $2,000 or more, depending on the foreign metal used. How to identify valuable errors on the 1974 D Washington quarter. If you think your 1974 D Washington quarter might be an error coin, here are a few tips to help you identify a valuable find. Look for doubling. Carefully inspect the lettering, Liberty, In God We Trust, and Washington's portrait. Use a magnifying glass to spot any doubling or extra impressions.